March 18th, 37 AD, 2 days after the death of Tiberius, Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, commonly known as Caligula, is announced by the Senate as the third emperor of the Empire of Rome. Son of the revered military general Germanicus, great-grandson of Augustus, first emperor of Rome. Just 24 years old, he'll be dead in less than 4 years at the age of 28, but his name will live forever and become synonymous with debauchery, depravity, inhumane torture, abuse of power, absolute corruption, and sexual excess. We're going deep, we're going dark on both the Empire of Rome and its most infamous emperor with a pair of very special guests in this torture-laden edition of Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Wow, big show today, everybody. Big show. Very excited. Thanks to Timesucker Dustin Cyphers via Facebook for asking for Caligula. Huge thanks to Timesucker Jesse Howard for sending me a ton of Caligula info, including pointing out that, quote, an important thing to remember in this episode is that all the facts you'll be getting will be speculation, opinions, and observations from ancient historians such as Tacitus, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, and other random Roman dudes. Some of the things that are, quote, history are really just these guys bagging on someone they collectively didn't like, and a lot of it is just overwhelmingly not true. All right, so when we do talk about Caligula's exploits later in the podcast, we should keep in mind a lot of the stuff that was written about him wasn't firsthand, eyewitness testimony, a lot of conjecture, but I think sometimes conjecture is more fun than absolute truth. Thanks for all the new subscriptions, iTunes reviews. Timesuck hit number 42 on the iTunes top comedy podcast chart, its highest chart position yet. All hail the power of Elron. Fucking the Ronald, man, rocketing us up the charts using that Dianetics. Only about 60 iTunes reviews away from the next bonus episode. Pablo motherfucking Escobar been posting the pictures of you Timesuckers wearing that sweet first-generation tee up at Dan Cummins Comedy on Instagram and Facebook. I know I have more of those to post, by the way, and I will get those. I also got caught up on all the messages sent to me, as far as I know, through this past Tuesday. So if you messaged me more than a week ago, hit me up again. And now there's dedicated social media handles just for Timesuck, and I'll be pushing that to everyone soon. Man, just so many good changes. Thanks to Timesucker Jordan Kasusic for setting those up. Thanks to Timesucker David Gimple for staying on me about the Timesuck email list I'll be rolling out at some point. And I appreciate the new PayPal donations and the Timesucker Amazon shopping by clicking the respective PayPal and Amazon buttons at timesuckpodcast.com. And now the first of two big announcements on the podcast. Happy to announce I just signed with Midroll, a company dedicated to connecting quality advertisers to quality podcasts. Unlike the other companies that talked to me that I turned down, I have full control to approve any and all sponsorships with Midroll. No pre-recorded commercials. Nope. I read everything. I put it all in my own words. I get to recommend products I trust, companies I believe in, put a little suck on those ads, make them suck so sweet, suck so deep, make them entertaining, get you discounts for cool shit, and most importantly, the podcast gets to survive. Because I love Timesuck, I really love it, but I can't keep dedicating the time I've been putting into it and keep approving it without sponsors, or my family will leave me. It's insane. I love it. But it's way too time-consuming just to do it indefinitely with no sponsors. So it's a literal time suck. So if you want this to stick around for a long time, I hope you do. I do. Maybe even someday get to the point where we can double the suck, have 2 episodes a week. I know that's what you want right now. I would love to do that, but I would fucking just drop dead at my laptop after, I don't know, being dehydrated or fucking whatever, strung out, learning about weird lizard shit. But I want to do that. And you can help me, and it's going to cost you nothing. In order to find great advertisers to fit this show, they need to learn a little bit about you. So please, please, please take a moment. Go to podsurvey.com. That's PODSURVEY, podsurvey.com/timesuck. Podsurvey.com/timesuck. Take a quick anonymous survey. It's going to help us get to know you better. If you're sitting by the computer, do it now. Push pause on this motherfucker. Go to podsurvey.com/timesuck. Take that quick survey. Pretend I have a gun to your head if it helps. You know what? Pretend I have 2 fucking guns, 1 to each side of your head. No, pretend I'm balancing a 3rd gun on the top of your goddamn precious head. Go to podsurvey.com, timesuck. That's podsurvey.com/timesuck. Take that quick survey. You know, the long-term future of Timesuck quite literally depends on it. And, even if you've taken a podcast listener survey before, you got to do it again for this show. And if you're still not sold, all right. Once you've completed the survey, you can enter to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Keep the podcast going and win a gift card. There's no better way to spread the suck. Sponsorship is the only way to kind of keep on sucking. All right. Now, before we go to Caligula and I introduce 2 very special guests, time for some quick Timesucker updates.
Updates? Get your Timesucker updates.
Okay, first one, you guys know I can't pronounce shit, and I get a lot of crap about that. I mispronounced his dude's name last week, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I've been calling him Degrassi as if he's the fucking star of Degrassi Junior High, because I don't know how names work. I had this pointed out by Timesucker JT Henry. It's DeGrasse, no E sound at the end. I'm the fucking worst with names. So, and this episode is going to be a real joy because there's no fucking Franks and Howards in goddamn Caligula time. So this is going to be a lot of fun. A quick thing on conservative listeners, Timesucker Johnny Frank wrote me the following email. I get a lot of that kind of emails along this line. He says, while I enjoyed the podcast with lighter subjects, the more challenging ones really intrigue and capture me. The Muslim episode was really interesting and eye-opening about religion. While I have Muslim friends, I still don't know much about the religion. If I may suggest that when talking about more conservative points of views, you keep in mind that just like how ISIS doesn't represent the entire Muslim religion, the ignorant, bigoted Donald Trump supporters don't represent all Republican or conservative beliefs. I love how honest you are and open to constructive criticism and different points of view. And, your pal, Johnny Frank. Thank you, Johnny. I do need to address this, I think. I've thought about it for a while. Believe it or not, I'm not against conservatives. I'm not. I do share certain conservative views. I don't want this to make a political podcast. I don't want conservatives to feel like you're getting picked on unfairly. I don't dislike Trump because he's a Republican. If he was a Democrat or libertarian or independent, I'd still fucking not like the guy on a personal level. He just rubs me the wrong way. I just think he's kind of arrogant, thin-skinned, kind of a bully. But that's my opinion. If you like him, fine. I don't give a shit. I don't think all Trump supporters are even ignorant. I think they just choose to focus on the parts of his policy that they like and ignore things they don't like we all do. I think a lot of people are just sick of career politicians. I get that. I don't think it makes you a bad person. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. It's like I don't like fucking Taylor Swift. But, if I'm not going to start cutting people out of my life who fucking think her music's great. That's just my opinion. So if I come across the art of conservatives, fucking relax. Just loosen your buttholes. I'm not the enemy. I'm not some crazy liberal trying to take away your guns. Because that means I'd have to get rid of my guns. And that's not going to fucking happen because I got to keep my goddamn neighbor in line. All right? I got some fucking neighbors giving me problems right now. Anyway, last thing is Master Sucker. I've been referred numerous times now in emails as the Master Sucker. And I got to say, I fucking love it. Sounds kind of like motherfucker, which is one of my favorite swear words. It's weird. Sounds like an insult. But it also reminds me of the Strain on FX. Like I'm like the head vampire. I'm the Master Sucker infecting others with curiosity. So that was adorable, and I appreciate it. And last little grammar thing from Timesucker, Ryan Waller. He says, sent me an email, and he goes, I'm no graduate of Gonzaga or anywhere else, but I must point out that the word nuclear is pronounced nuclear, not nuclear, as you have a tendency to say. I'm an unrepentant grammar Nazi, and you've shown yourself open to correction on such things. I just want to have you say it. Say it. Nuclear. God damn it, Ryan. Okay, I fucking get it. Nuclear. I'm gonna fucking go nuclear on Caligula here in a second. All right, and that's it. That's it for Timesucker updates. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Timesuckers. I needed that.
We all did. All right. So now it's time for Caligula and my two special guests. Many of you have asked for guests, and listen, I'm not going to do it all the time because I don't want to share too much of the suck. And I tried it one time early on. I thought it was all right, but then I was like, nah, I want to do just me. But these guys get it. I have two goddamn champions in the room right now, two murder moguls. I have so much murder these guys are into. They probably have both murdered several people, and I don't even fucking care because they're good at what they do, and I feel like it gives them a pass. I have the host of the very popular Crime and Sports podcast, and becoming more popular by the second podcast I also like very much, Small Town Murder, James Petrogallo. I'm one of three people on Earth who can pronounce his name correctly, and Jimmy Wisman.
Oh, thank you for having us,
Yeah,
Dan.
this is exciting.
Man, this is great.
We're pumped. I love Timesuck, and we're excited for Caligula because it's right up our alley of debauchery.
Well, you guys, understand debauchery like few people on Earth do.
And everybody out there, I just want to say, he's in the studio, so you can't see Dan, so I don't know what he tells you, but he had to turn off a Taylor Swift song to record, and he strapped on his Make America Great Again hat as the mics went hot. So he's full of shit. I don't know what he's telling you fucking people.
That is awesome. I'm very excited to have you guys go on this journey because
This is great.
I will say, I referenced my kid last episode, and I let my kid listen to some of these episodes. Might want to have the kids sit this one out.
Probably.
This is intense. This is the most intense times like I've gotten where I did so many moments where I'm like, God damn it,
So
this
much.
guy, and just Rome in general.
Yeah.
And I think to understand Caligula, we do need to understand the time he lived in. And because you can't dig into Rome without some weird sex stuff coming up, and there's so many weird violence things, and that really kind of like gives him some context. It's not like he was doing this stuff today.
Yeah.
And the best way to kind of look at the history of Rome and maybe understand it from the birth of Rome up until the time of Caligula is with the Timesuck timeline.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
753 BC, according to Roman legend, the founding of Rome. Located in the region of Lazio, Rome's origins are traced back to some legend of Romulus and Remus, twin sons of Mars, the god of war. According to Roman mythology, the brothers disagreed on where to locate the new city. Each brother stood on one of Rome's 7 hills. 6 vultures circled over Romulus and signaling Mars' favor. And on April 21st, 753 BC, the city that is now the world icon that it is was founded and named after the winning brother Romulus. I don't fucking buy any of that.
No.
That sounds dark as fuck.
It sounds
man.
like such a lie because of the exact number of vultures.
Right. Yes.
So like if we make up a very specific vulture amount, people are going to believe this shit. Let's get on this. I really believe that.
Romans loved grandiose things about Rome. Like, you know, they really got into their own mythology.
Yeah.
With this stuff.
They got to point out that they're better than everybody else.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a self-contained thing, Rome. Like it's such a weird moment in time and a weird stitch in like what people thought was okay and culture. It's really strange.
It was
Really
so
into their
fucking
own
great.
legend.
Right. If it was so fucking great, why did it fall? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. It took a while. It took a while to fall.
All that rape will kill you after a while. Yeah. Can't survive on that.
Well, I do believe that Romulus was probably a real dude. We think, the weird bird shit probably never happened, all the Seven Hills stuff. But around 753 BC, it did begin as like a rural settlement. Some kind of like tribal people in the area. And then they kind of quickly started kind of turning it into a city, building temples in the style of the Etruscans and incorporating key elements of Greek culture. And then by 509 BC, it became a republic, and it would become an empire by the end of the BC period as it went, into the era of the emperors. Yeah. But it's in the beginnings, I didn't know this. Rome was governed by kings initially. It was, if he was indeed a man and not just a legend, Romulus supposedly was the first of these kings. Yeah. From 753 to 509 BC, 7 kings who ruled Rome at the beginning of its history. Starting with Romulus from 753 to 715. After he died, the next 4 kings were elected by Romans, so it wasn't like a traditional monarchy in the sense of by birthright.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They always say Greece is the first democracy. Is this pre-Greek democracy?
No, I believe the Greek democracy was before the Roman, all the Roman stuff. Yeah,
33 or something like that.
Yeah.
This is BC.
Oh, that was
That's
BC.
True, though.
We're going hundreds of years BC.
I can't remember where the Greek timeline how it lined up.
Posers.
All they got is fucking. All they got is yogurt.
I always thought it was Greek first, but I can't remember.
Yogurt and John Stamos. That's your fucking claim to fame.
They got some good yogurt.
They're hiding something under all that hair. I knew it, bastards.
Well, the 6th king, Servius Tullius, he inherited the throne, and then the 7th, Tarquinius Superbus, killed Servius Tullius to gain the throne, and unhappy with Superbus's taking his throne by force, the people of Rome revolt. And then they're not interested in kings anymore. And by the way, all these names, Superbus is spelled superbus.
That's awesome.
Like superbus, just Superbus. And at first, I thought that was how it's pronounced. And I was like, what kind of Roman name is Superbus? Superbus. It's a terrible name. Sounds like an eccentric founder of a bus line, right?
Or like the extra long bus in New York that carries more passengers down the line.
I'm Tarquinius Superbus, and I provide the smoothest rides.
Or a small bus that brings handicapped elderly people to the mall. You know what I mean?
The Superbus.
Come on, guys.
The Superbus. Don't travel by bus, travel by Superbus.
Because it can lift their walker onto it with the thing. That's it. Super. Look. Super bus.
Grab your SSI check. We're headed to the food court. Jump on the fucking super
Go to the
bus.
slot machine. Super bus. Let's go.
Well, during this monarchy period, the initial Senate, the famous Roman Senate, is formed. The government that would inspire, 1 million toga-themed frat sausage parties gets going this way. And what it's most known for, under the early monarchy, the Senate developed actually as an advisory council containing the heads of greater and lesser families. By 509 BC, there's about 300 of these dudes giving the king their advice, support. I'm assuming threats to withdraw support. So basically, it was just a political, an early political thing of like, there's the king, but he wants to keep all these tribal people happy. Yeah. So he lets the head of each household have this advisory role, and and I'm sure there was a lot of excellent point, Tarquinius. I'll keep it in my mind for sure, Tullius. Well spoken, Dolores Acusius. What the fuck is your name? Because just whatever.
Yeah, where's Superbus? Let's get his opinion. Where is he? It's like Tammany Hall, fucking 2,000 years earlier. Basically. It's like a corrupt New York City police. Or political.
It's like a little town hall. That's how it starts. This advisory thing. Well, after old Naughty Pants, King Superbus is booted. A republic is formed in 715 BC. The word comes from the Latin words res publica, which means public matters. Res publica, excuse me. I don't know why I fucking put a Spanish tilt on that.
Just throw an S in there.
It's matters of state. And now the Roman Republic has 3 branches of government: the legislative branch of the Senate. Those 300 citizens from Rome's patrician class, the oldest and wealthiest families of Rome, because just because the king's gone doesn't mean they're going to give up their seats now.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to go to the king, but we're going to fucking stay.
We're still rich. Here.
Yeah, we're
Come
still
on.
rich.
It's essentially the Senate.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
It's the same
exactly.
shit.
And the Senate's the most powerful branch of the Roman Republic, and they hold their positions for life.
Oh, wow.
Must be nice. No re-election campaigns.
It's terrific.
Not a lot of incentive, I feel like, to do a bang-up job. That's what I was thinking at first. Like, what are you going to do, fire me? I hold this shit for life. But then I'm sure their comeback was, I can fucking kill you then.
Yeah, I'll just poison you. That's fine.
I'll work.
I'll kick you down a fucking well.
We only lived to
exactly.
like 32, so no big deal. That'll be over soon.
For life,
We'll wait them out. No big deal.
For life, you're going to get worms and die anyway. We don't care.
No biggie.
Well, then in the response to the king, in place of the king, they had, and this lasted a long time in Roman kind of government, is the 2 consuls. And they were elected yearly, held their position for 1 year, and they had almost kingly powers, but their powers could cancel each other out. They didn't want one dude to have too much power anymore, so they had it split into 2 dudes, 2 consuls, who could, again, veto each other's. They had to agree on stuff. And again, they re-elected every year, and they did have a lot of power. They could decide when to go to war, how much taxes to collect, what laws were.
Oh, wow.
And the Senate's advised the councils, and in general, the consuls followed the Senate's advice. Because, again, the Senate doesn't have legislative powers per se, but they're wealthy people. They're holding a position for life.
Yeah.
If you're a consul, you're like, I'm out in 6 months. I'm going to fucking listen to what this guy has to say so he doesn't make my life hard.
And then
after
when I get
leave.
out, he can
He's
help
gonna take
me.
care of me.
Exactly.
Which is what they did.
Which is, it's a president collecting speech fees when he's
Right.
done.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was very detrimental to your health to kind of like, push against the Senate too hard.
Yeah.
And then there was the judicial branch was the praetors who acted as like, judges. And in the beginning of the Roman Republic, all of these positions came from the patrician class, from the rich and the wealthy. Yeah. And then, they've been running shit since the beginning of time. And there was 4 classes for Rome. There was the patricians, the highest of the 4 classes. There was the lowest class, which was the slaves, no rights. Second from the bottom were the plebeians. The plebes were free, but no one gave a shit initially about what they thought.
Yeah.
They could fucking sell bread in the market. You can have your little spaghetti stand, Luigi. But the fucking grown-ups are talking to the Senate.
Just be thankful you've got that fucking spaghetti.
Yeah.
Do you see that man over there? Do you want to be him?
Yeah, exactly.
Just fucking be thankful for that spaghetti.
What happened to Super Bus?
Yeah, exactly.
Taking old people to the mall. Come on, guys.
And then there was the equit class, sometimes called equestrian class, kind of like Roman knights, and they were rich dudes who didn't quite have as noble of a birth as the patricians.
They're people with some money, but they don't have a say in shit.
Yeah, they were like second class nobles, and they were kind of like also initially formed as like a cavalry. Like they were they did good things. They donated enough money to the Senate, whatever. You get a fucking horse.
Yeah,
if we need to call on you in times of war, you take your horses that we've given you, and now you're not a plebe anymore.
Right.
Nice.
So that's the 4 classes. Well, in 494 BC. The plebes thought, like, hey, how come we're the ones fucking fighting the army? We're the ones, doing all the wars, trying to expand the glory of Rome. We get no say in the government.
Oh, the poor. Look at them.
Yep.
It's so cute. They think they get it.
Yep.
They figured it out.
Yeah. And then the Senate was like, well, that's the way shit works, motherfuckers. But then the army was like, all right, well, that's fair. If you guys want to have that, we're going to go leave now, and just found another city.
Oh, shit.
And they threatened to all leave, and that's when the Senate was like, you know what? Actually, when I look at the fine print, you guys should have more rights. That was a mistake we made. Our bad. So they realized they need poor people.
Superbus drew up the con card.
That was all Superbus.
Really sorry.
Just blame it all on him.
He was a dick. So they realized they need the poor. They can't have servants and tavern wenches and the fucking army without some poor people. So now a new government position of tribune. The tribunes are added to the legislative branch of government, and they're elected yearly. They represent the concerns specifically of the plebeians, and they had a lot of power. Basically, like they could veto any law. Like in America, like if you wanted somebody to have the position to be able to veto any law Congress makes, that's a tribune, and they had 10 of these.
Okay,
so they have 10 of these people who can be like, no, that doesn't work for us.
Wow.
Also part of the government.
We need that.
And,
So
They're kind of like Congress in a way, but then they're also a check on other things. A lot of checks and balances going on here.
And it kind of gets too convoluted, which is kind of creates the rise of emperors later. We're going to see that. They keep trying to make everybody happy.
Too many stalemates.
Yep.
One-page tax plan. Yeah, it's one of those. Healthcare is too complicated.
Yep.
Yeah, it's that shit. Yeah.
It's getting and they did realize that in times of war. There was an early precedent for kind of like what an emperor would become later, all the way back in 458 BC. This little system of theirs worked when no one was trying to fucking destroy them. But then when someone's coming for the gates, you can't be like, well, actually, I think that we should do this.
Right.
And they were like, and they would have a special kind of clause for this where they would have dictators that would serve for 1 year to handle kind of wartime situations. Like the first one was Cincinnatus, a former consul in 458 BC. And, they fucking gave him the reins. They're
This is like martial law, basically.
Exactly. For one dude for a year,
wartime.
they were like, Superbus, you can fucking calm down. Tyrannosaurus Rexicus, you can shut the fuck up. Cincinnatus Redicus, Pedicus Rosicus is in charge now.
Thou shalt all have this haircut of thy bull on thy head.
Thou shalt all slide into first at any opportunity. And
Pedicus Rosicus is over there over at Caesar's palace just signing autographs.
right.
That's beautiful.
So he handles it all. And then they add another thing, 435 BC, they add the censor. So it's continuing to evolve. Now the position of censor was created, all these positions. And at first the censor was just in charge of like taking kind of like stock, like the censor, or the census, excuse me. Yeah, about how many people there are, how much livestock, how much goods, all for tax purposes. They took the census. This then evolved into also assigning the recognition of who qualified for like the equestrian rank, keeping of public morals. It was this weird thing where they could be like, no, you're in trouble. You're not upstanding or upholding traditional Roman cultural values.
More rape out of you, goddamn it.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
are banished to the hills.
They could administrate finances of the state, superintendents kind of public buildings, erection of new public works. They got kind of more and more power as they evolved. And they had the power of degrading every citizen to a lower rank so that they could expel senators from the Senate.
That's too much.
Deprive
Amazing.
That's too much power.
Yeah, I would
deprive
say.
the equites of their horses, remove ordinary citizens from their tribes, all kinds of stuff.
Oh my God, you could ruin somebody's life.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where censorship comes from. They could like fucking censor you,
Wow,
that term.
okay.
Like they had and they were somehow a little bit less powerful than a consul, but they held their position for 5 years. So they were kind of like basically the most
secure.
powerful, position.
Yeah.
And then also all these positions, once you were done, kind of like that, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. You didn't hold the authority of your position anymore once somebody else took it, but you kept the level of prestige for life.
Yeah.
You weren't going to be a consul or a censor for a year and then go back to being fucking spaghetti stand operator.
Yeah, if you're president, you're Mr. President for the rest of your life.
Exactly, same kind of thing.
Same deal.
But because of all this and the way they're doing and all these back scratching, they're creating a huge bureaucracy.
For sure.
The government's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more fucking people on the payroll.
Yeah.
376 BC, Licinian law says that one consul must be elected from the plebeian class. So now they have another fucking thing with the plebes.
I kind of like that one though.
Yeah.
That
Kinda
seems like a
helping out
fair
the poor.
move.
That
Right, so they help out
seems-
the poor, except for the slaves. Now, the whole time there is the slave class, and the slaves, I'm sure, eventually were like, "Hey guys, now that all these changes, what about us?" And then it was a nice bonding moment for the patricians and the plebes and the equestrian class to be like, have a good laugh together, and then fucking be like, shut the fuck up, kill a few of the slaves to set an example for the
just
rest.
for fun.
Just for fun, but to do it together for the first time.
Well, that's nice. Teamwork
Right.
is important. It
Right.
brings everyone together to kill a couple
yeah.
of slaves. Yeah. Now, is this the time period? Sorry to stop. Is this the time period where they would do the switch off every year? They would do the slave master switch deal.
I didn't get into that. Like the slave,
It's crazy. I was reading about this months ago.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff kind of comes and goes in Roman culture.
Okay.
Like
I
a
didn't know
fun
this
take
was
your daughter
then.
to work day kind of thing,
Yeah.
where you just like switch roles and you're
They
like,
have
you
a-
get to
I mean,
run the company.
The masters serve the slaves, and they have big parties, and they put out big elaborate feasts for the slaves. It's
Yeah.
one day a year they do this.
That
where
couldn't
they
have went
totally
well.
switch.
No.
No, I mean,
couldn't have,
Jesus.
but I bet for this, I couldn't have went well in the sense that like if a slave got a little cocky and is like, actually, I would like my bread a little more toasted than that. They'd be like, okay, and they'd have a nice toast that night, and the next day they'd be fucking dead.
They would murder
It
them.
happened the
to
day
death.
that the slave decided to take his liberties and bang the master's wife.
Yes.
That's the day
That's
that it
yes,
happened.
yeah.
He's
Yes.
like, I'm you. I get to
Yep,
fuck her.
and they
He's like,
do
wait
that.
till tomorrow, sir. Wait till tomorrow.
And they did have that right, by the way. There was no crimes against slaves. You could do whatever you wanted with them,
my
essentially.
God.
So 287 to 133 BC, the plebes gained more and more political power, but it doesn't help the life of the average kind of plebeian citizen. For example, like kind of during that period, Rome does a lot of fucking fighting. They booted Carthage's armies out of Sicily in 264 BC, destroyed Carthage in northern Africa by 149 BC, conquered the Iberian Peninsula where like Spain and stuff is, 218 BC, fought the Germanic people, kind of pushed them around a little bit, the Celts. The Macedonians, many others, did a lot of fighting.
Wow.
And while they're doing all this fighting, it's the poor class they're the legionnaires and the Legion. They're doing all this fighting, and so they're unable to tend their farms for long periods at a time, and they end up, it's so fucked up, they end up losing, even though they're doing all this fighting, they end up losing their land. You know, they can't tend the farms, things like that. And then the noble class is like, well, we'll fucking buy your farm then, you know, at shitty prices.
Yeah.
And so there becomes this big, kind of, corrupt imbalance of wealth in the town.
Like the housing boom bubble break.
Exactly. So there's all these, countless farmers. And then by the time that the war is kind of over and things are stabilized, well, now you have all these people who are just fucking poor. And now they're kind of like dependent on the state.
And their farms and everything.
They've lost their farms. You know, it's
oh my God, it's identical to housing bubble break.
Yeah.
Homeless people giving up shitty houses.
Shanty towns popping up all
and you
over
can
the
think
place.
about that with America. Like, what if we just, gave up on all of our military stuff? That'd be a lot of people unemployed.
Oh my God, yeah.
And all those people who were out in Europe doing all these different things, or in Northern Africa, now they've come back to Rome, and they're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so by 60 BC, shit's gotten out of hand in Rome. People are fucking pissed. The Republic's no longer working. They're poor, they're angry, they're fucking hungry. Unemployment's out of control. Riots and violence are breaking out in the streets. People are, they're hungry, they're desperate.
Even more rape.
Yeah.
More rape.
Oh my God.
Rape
right,
even.
they've upped the rape quota.
This just is a ripe situation for some fucking monster to just show everybody his power and say, you all bow to me.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. It's the Triumvirate. This is the first Triumvirate, and it's a group of 3 dudes who come together to try and restore order to Rome, and of course push their own personal aspirations.
Bloodthirsty, bloodlust, vicious human beings.
Exactly. One is Julius Caesar. Rings a name. I believe he's the founder of Little Caesar's Pizza.
I believe so.
I think so,
yes.
too.
This is where I know him from.
Makes a very
Famous
pie,
quote,
but
pizza,
it's cheap.
pizza. He's really
Known for that. He stood atop the mountain and said, pizza,
staff.
pizza.
Let there be $2 slices for all of Rome.
$5 hot and
Whatever it
ready.
is.
Hot and ready. One topping only, please.
Yep. So there's Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus. And then they join forces into what's the Triumvirate. Fucking Thundercats, ho, all that shit. So Crassus, to kind of like who these people are, Crassus, in addition to commanding troops, had a lot of money. He was the largest landowner, richest man in Rome. Pompey was considered the greatest military commander of his time. A lot of political connections. And then, of course, Caesar, military hero as well, prominent, well-liked politician. And they just kind of take over. They're like, this shit isn't working. They just, through their political connections and money and influence, take over the politics of Rome, get elected as consuls, use their kind of money to break up the current stranglehold of the Senate over Roman life. And they do all right with all that. They're making a little bit of progress and kind of getting life better until Crassus literally loses his head in battle. He's beheaded in 53 BC, the Battle of Cara. And when he dies, the relationship between Caesar and Pompey deteriorates. Oh, boy. And now a civil war breaks out. And this would happen here and there in Rome, where it's like, you got these guys that are out fighting, conquering for the glory of Rome, fighting these battles way far in Gaul or whatever. Yeah. And they're commanding all these armies. And just because the people in the Senate back at Rome are like, well, this is the way we want it to be now, sometimes the army would be like, no, we don't fucking like that.
Right. And they're on the ground actually doing it, so they can pretty much do what they want.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you have these 2 generals who are like, each want to take over Rome. And, Caesar and Pompey. And so Caesar wins. He kicks, he finally destroys Pompey and wins this little civil war. And then after kicking a little extra ass in Asia Minor and Northern Africa before heading home, he returns to Rome a dictator. All right. And when Caesar's, I always thought he was the first emperor, and technically he's not, but he kind of set the tone to be an emperor in Rome.
Yeah, he's the template emperor.
The template, Even though Augustus is technically the first emperor, Caesar was a dictator. He held the tribunate. So he just kind of consolidated all the positions: the consul, the tribune, the wartime dictator. Yeah. He's like, I get to do fucking all of that. That's is how amazing. We're going to do it now.
What's most impressive to me is that he did all that shit in sandals. What have you done in sandals?
Nothing. Right. I have a hard time walking a long distance in sandals.
I have a hard time walking in sand in sandals, and this son of a bitch conquered an entire fucking country
with those clothes. Though his balls were very free to flow. I think that's what it is. He had a breeze. I think that's honestly when your balls feel free and clear, it doesn't matter what your footwear is. You know what I mean? I really feel like that. I'm
just blown away.
Sandals specifically come back up in this episode.
Really?
Really? Sandals, very big connection between Caligula and sandals. A little funny one.
Oh man,
that we're going to call back to the rest of this episode once we get to it.
Wait.
Yeah, so this all happens in 48 BC, 46 BC. Caesar now he's taken over the power of the censor as well. He just keeps like adding more positions to his title, which he just decides he's going to have for life. So now he's fucking everything. He's censor, tribune, general, consul, dictator. And then he does this thing with the Senate where he starts naming people to the Senate and just basically people who are going to do what he says. and he raises their number from a couple hundred to 900.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
So he just decides like now he has all these puppets, so he also has control of the Senate. He has control of fucking everything.
He was a sycophantic rubber stamp Senate now. He can do whatever he wants.
Exactly. And the Roman citizens have no problem initially with his power grab. Things again weren't going well under the Republic. He'd expanded the empire. Romans always loved their military conquest. They took a lot of pride in their generals kicking some ass.
Yeah.
And he pushed a number of economic reforms through that benefited the poor. And he led the high life for about 2 years.
That's how you do it.
Yep. And then things were going great until he got stabbed roughly a shitload of times by a group of politicians not happy about his power grab.
Yeah.
All the people he'd been disenfranchising in the patrician class, all these other powerful people, don't like that he's like, I fucking run everything now. And then, of course, one of them being Marcus Brutus, the et tu Brutus.
Oh, nice.
So after his assassination, Mark Antony, forms an alliance with Caesar's adopted son and great nephew.
Bad dude. Holy shit, was he a bad dude.
Gaius Octavian, along with Marcus Lepidus, they form an alliance known as the Second Triumvirate, and they hold powers nearly identical to the power Caesar had. And then the Senate and assemblies remain powerless even after Caesar had been assassinated. And then the conspirators were then defeated at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC. Eventually, Antony and Octavian fight each other. Again, another civil war kind of, these guys can't fucking share power.
Yeah.
Antony's defeated the naval battle of Actium in 31 BC, commits suicide with his lover, as we heard, Cleopatra. And now we get to the first emperor of Rome. So there's like scrambling of what are we going to do? Well, 29 BC, Octavian returns to Rome. Now he's the unchallenged, kind of like Caesar did before.
Right.
He gets back from his battles. He's the unchallenged master of the empire. And then he accepts from the Senate the title of Augustus, the exalted one.
Oh,
and I feel like that was a political move by the Senate where they're like, fuck, man, we got another guy who's going to run shit, but let's see if this guy will work with us a little bit. We'll honor him.
Yeah.
We'll brown nose. Come on, let us do a couple things.
Yeah, let us pass a little of this.
Yep.
We'll get on board with what you're doing. Yeah, it's a
exactly
circle jerk here they're having.
Exactly. And Augustus is the great nephew and adopted son of Julius Caesar. These guys were so related, and they did a lot of adoptions in a different way in Rome, which is kind of why these people became so interrelated. They would just be like you could be 45 and you could have your buddy, like you have a position of power and you have a buddy who's like 40 and you're like, you're my son now. I'm going to adopt you.
That's amazing.
Because then it put that person in line for the throne. They could do things if they wanted. So there was a different type of adoption.
Lineage.
Exactly. They handpicked a lot of shit that way.
Jimmy, you're my son now.
You better be a great judge of character because if you fuck up a guy that's 40 that maybe is a master manipulator, that could ruin fucking everything forever.
And that does. That's another Caligula thing. These people made some very strange picks sometimes. Very strange picks.
Very suspect.
Very suspect.
We all do in our personal lives, and this is no different.
No different. Well, Augustus, by all accounts, was a great emperor. His reign was a golden age, every respect. He restores peace, causes the economy, the arts, agriculture to flourish. He has an ambitious building program initiated. Where I
love when they tell all this in books and stuff, but they don't tell the body count that created that unbelievable thing. You know what I mean? Because in his wake is thousands of bodies.
It's just a pile.
Yeah, it's just,
there wasn't a labor union.
No.
There were slaves who were like, hey, man, you're going to build that fucking cool thing. And we're going to literally work you to death.
You'll just die. We'll just keep rolling right over you. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
You'll make a nice road
with
for
that
us.
exact cadence and everything, with a very charming smile, and we're literally going to work you to death.
They weren't having smoke breaks building the Coliseum.
No.
They weren't getting time and a half.
No 15-minute union mandate.
No.
Oh, Jesus.
You work or fucking be beaten to death.
Hey, I'm in golden time here. You really want me to go pick up that axe? Yeah, sorry, buddy. We're going to...
So he builds, all kinds of stuff. He 82 temples in 1 year at one point, famous public baths of Rome that are still there today. Those are constructed under Augustus. Poet Virgil composes his epic, under this time. The Aeneid. I should have looked up the pronunciation of that one. It's a fucking crazy word. Aeneid. So however you want to say that is up to you.
I'm looking forward to next week's podcast when somebody corrects that.
It's pronounced the Aeneid or Enid, or it's pronounced Superbus.
He's doing his goddamn best. You fucking pronounce 400 goddamn Roman names and cities. So anybody corrects anything on this, go fuck yourself. God damn it. Dan's doing a fantastic job. Sit back, listen, and fucking enjoy.
He was up till 1:30 last night.
Oh my God. I get way too into this. So he passes a lot of sweeping reforms. He does a lot of good stuff, and he does a lot of actually morality stuff. He makes adultery illegal. And he's
that's not even illegal here.
Yeah, exactly. He was strict about it too. He was so strict. He adhered to himself these laws. He banished his own daughter, Julia, and granddaughter for adultery. He took this stuff seriously. He was trying to clean up Rome. He's trying to clean up Rome. When he dies in 14 AD, his official last words were, quote, "I found Rome a city of clay, but I left it a city of marble." So he's proud of what he did.
Not bad.
Yeah.
He built something.
His
at
body
least.
is cremated. It's put in this big mausoleum. He's kind of basically proclaimed a god amongst the host of the other Roman gods in the pantheon. Like they used to do that when emperors would die or whatever. Like starting with Augustus, I mean, these guys were considered kind of like almost living gods. It's like which Caligula takes farther again later too.
It's like their version of the pyramids. It sounds like where they're like, like putting them out for the next journey or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Whatever.
They can go to Mount Olympus and hang out with Jupiter and whoever the fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But playing devil's advocate, that's kind of pompous to say.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? That's super arrogant.
Well, I mean, and you know that no matter, Augustus was a good emperor, but he's still an emperor.
Yeah.
You're not like a hey, whatever you guys want to do kind of emperor.
Yeah.
No.
A good emperor is like, I'm gonna fucking beat you to within an inch of your life for looking at me wrong.
It's a decent emperor,
but I'll let you live.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what a great guy.
We are. Yeah. We all.
An inch. He's gonna let me live. He's gonna let me live.
He's not gonna kill my whole family.
Hey, look at that. Kind and merciful.
Exactly. So 14 AD, we're almost up to Caligula. It's the reign of Tiberius now, the second emperor. He was the adopted son of Augustus, and apparently he had no desire for the throne. Tiberius' father, Tiberius Claudius, Nero, was not a fan of Augustus. This is all weird how they pick people. And check this out. Augustus had Tiberius' father banished from Rome when Tiberius was a boy for basically not liking him being the emperor.
Yeah.
And then when Nero dies, and this is not the famous emperor Nero. These guys shared the fucking same names all the time.
Damn it.
Makes it very confusing when you're reading about this shit. But when Nero dies, his mom, Livia, reaches out to her now dead husband's enemy and ends up marrying. So how fucking weird is that? So, or what I wonder, the way this stuff works, their egos, I wonder, because Nero hated Augustus, did he hate him because he knew he had a hard-on for his wife?
Yeah.
Or did maybe Augustus's ego was so big, he's like the guy I fucking banished, now I'm going to take his wife after he died.
That.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
I like
Here's
that
something my
a lot.
mom did. My mom was married to a man. And she went to bring him dinner one night, and he wasn't there. And his coworker told my mother that he was out with the parts girl, with his girlfriend, the parts girl.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Who are you?" My mom's like, "I'm his wife." And so he broke the news to her. And then 8 months later, my mom married that guy.
Wow.
So basically the same thing.
Okay. All right. Well, he knew a good woman. Didn't like how she's being treated.
That's amazing.
And that guy turned out to be a piece of shit too. So
God.
whatever.
Okay. Well, weird in this sense. Where how weird would it be for Tiberius? How weird would it be for Tiberius to grow up in the home of the dude who banished his father?
Horrible.
So that's weird.
That has to be so strange.
Yes,
It was,
right?
It was really tough for me. It really was.
Does he play extra catch with him?
I know,
just to make sure.
yeah.
No,
He
well, come on,
doesn't.
buddy.
We're
Let's
cool,
go
right?
outside. Yeah, come on.
We're cool, right? Well,
cool.
it gets even worse for Caligula. This is a pattern. So
in my experience, he yells at you extra loud because he's essentially taking out his hatred for that man on you.
God.
Oh, nice.
Well, maybe that's what happened to Tiberius.
Probably, I could see it.
Well, shit, let's find out.
So he takes the throne. He's reluctant. You know, he has mixed feelings about Rome and the whole emperor thing because of his own childhood. And but then he also doesn't want somebody else to get it. He doesn't necessarily want to be emperor, but he doesn't want to be the guy who's supposed to get it and then not have it because he kind of wants some of the perks to go along with it. And so he does another thing emperors do all the time. He starts taking out some rivals. And the closest person he has to a rival is Germanicus, Julius Caesar Claudinius. Germanicus is his adopted son, and an incredibly popular and successful general. He was going to be like the Rome's Alexander the Great. He was a young, kick-ass general, handsome dude.
Badass name.
Yeah, Germanicus.
Oh,
he controls about a third of all of Rome's armies, and he's Tiberius' successor to the throne. And also many of Rome's generals think he should be the emperor now. They're not big fans of Tiberius. They don't think much of him. They want Germanicus.
I think he's ready.
They think he's ready. And then Germanicus dies, kind of under suspect circumstances, possibly poisoned, October 10th, 19 AD.
I can think of a suspect.
Yeah, there's rumors that Tiberius commanded it. Well, that doesn't sit well with Caligula's mother. This is Caligula's father, Germanicus. And Agrippina suspects Tiberius returns to Rome to accuse him in person. Not a good fucking plan.
No, seems bad. He could have done that over text.
Yeah, could have done that.
Maybe send a homing pigeon and let them know that way.
Yeah,
Feel it out maybe a little.
Because, by the way, you have a terrible name. That's the worst name.
Agrippina?
Terrible.
sounds
Agrippina the Elder is actually what she became known as. It's even worse.
What a terrible name.
Get your old dick out of here. You're not interested.
Like a farming dick. That's what it sounds like.
Well, Agrippina believes that.
Oh, it's a girl.
It's even worse. Exactly. It's a male name.
It's a mother. Yeah.
The mother believes that her sons, Nero Caesar, Drusus Caesar, and Gaius Julius Caesar, Caligula, should be considered next in line to the throne. Also not a smart thing to be talking to the emperor about. Like, these guys should fucking be the emperor. And it doesn't work out well for her or any of her sons other than Caligula. I'm sure some of them at this point had to have been like, Mom, maybe you could shut the fuck up. This is not going to work well for me.
You are a woman. You are a woman. Take it easy.
She's going to school yelling at their math teacher. And like, I got to be here every fucking day. Seriously. Like, she's mean enough.
Well, Tiberius has Drusus starved to death. Nero's assassinated. And Agrippina herself is exiled. And this is crazy. Flogged so severely at one point that depending on which account you believe, she was either flogged till she lost sight in one eye.
Wow.
Or flogged until her fucking eye came out. Wow. One of her eyes flogged out.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Flogged right out of there.
And they leave out the part where they raped that eye socket.
Oh,
you
God.
know they did.
God,
and skull fucked to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly. No, she actually starved to death. So then she starves to death.
What's worse?
Well, I know. What's worse?
I can't think of it.
It's a poll we can put out to you guys.
call
Whether
it.
starve to death or get your eye hole fucked out to
God.
death. Which one?
Right after you fill out the poll to determine Dan's ratings, then go find
after
that
that.
poll.
Let us know.
So Caligula and the youngest son Caligula and his three sisters, they were seen as too young and not a threat. Now check this out. Talking about the weird choices, they then go to live with Tiberius. It's like these guys just love to collect the children of rivals or something.
Horrible.
So it's like Vito Corleone going to live with the guy who killed his father and mother, like and training under him. That's the weirdest thing ever.
Wouldn't you think like, hey, I wonder if this kid might grow up to someday kill me?
Right.
He might harbor some.
For the little small infractions of flogging his mom and starving her, banishing his father, killing all of the rest of his killing his father. Killing his brothers.
Every day you wake them up and tell them something that their mother had planned for them. Your mother was gonna fucking murder you. Do you know that?
Lady.
She was terrible.
So now that we've made it to the age of Caligula, let's hop out of this timeline and explore his life in some depth.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
All right, so now we're with Caligula. He was born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. They loved a long fucking name.
Good God.
On August 35th.
What a
August
business card.
35th. He was born. They had extra 4 days.
There's so much different back
August 31st.
That is a heavy business card with ink, by the way.
Oh
Holy
my God.
shit.
You could have 2 cards. Here's my first business card with part of my name. Here's the rest of my name on the second business card.
You done reading that first one? Here you go.
August 31st, 12 AD. He's born in Antium, just outside of Rome. Again, biological father is Germanicus. He was the great nephew and adopted son of Emperor Tiberius. They're all like weird fucking convoluted bloodlines. Great grandson through adoption of Julius Caesar. Augustus was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. So they're all kind of, Tiberius was like Augustus' son-in-law. Caligula was Tiberius' great nephew. Fucking
wow.
Roman noble family trees are fucked up. They're so confusing.
Does this also come with property too? Would you like adopt someone because they're going to be the inheritor of another piece of property?
I'm
and
sure.
They're all going to like kind of how people
business moves.
Yeah, like rich. Yeah, like rich people marry each other to
create an empire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
To keep it where you want it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you end up with all these weird uncle, daddy, sister, aunt
It's dangerous
kind of situations. And here's how Caligula got his nickname. We talked about sandals earlier. It sounds so sinister, right? Caligula.
Yeah.
Like it sounds just fucking evil.
Sounds like a blood sucking, it sounds like a vampire.
It's a vampire. Yeah. Caligula.
Actually, it means little boot.
Wow, isn't that cute?
Little boots.
That's
It was
adorable.
a kid's nickname. Meant little boots as in baby shoes. His father, Germanicus, badass military leader, commander of 8 Roman legions, and these soldiers wore these boots kind of like sandals, and they were known as Caligas, or Caliga. And Caligula's mom, Agrippina, liked to dress her up, kind of like women do today, to be just like daddy. And so she would dress him up in a little miniaturized version. He's the baby of the family, baby boy anyway, of a little military outfit complete with these little baby boots.
Oh, wow.
And he got the nickname Caligula, like little boots. And then what's weird, and apparently Caligula fucking hated it.
Yeah.
And it stuck with him forever. But I just think it's so weird to still refer to a murderous emperor by their baby nickname.
By their baby nickname. Yeah.
Like what if Hitler was called Little Peanut by his mom?
Yeah.
What if even worse? What if Hitler translated in German to Little Peanut?
That'd be amazing.
And it was just Heil, Little Peanut. Heil, sweet chipmunk. Something crazy,
We
fucking Caligula, baby boots.
we all remember the horrible time when Asia was just ruled by Scooter and he terrorized everyone. And it was
exactly.
a terrible time for all.
And Jeffrey Little Slugger Dahmer chopping up those little
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
After his dad's poisoned, one of his brothers is assassinated. His mom and other brother are exiled on treason charges in 29 AD, both of whom will then die. 17-year-old baby Boots. And his 3 young sisters, Agrippina the Younger, Julia, two Julias. The fucking weird shit with their sharing names in Rome.
Didn't even go Julia 1 and Julia 2, just Julia.
Different middle names and shit. Well, initially, adolescent Caligula sent to live with his great-grandmother, who's also Tiberius's mother, Livia.
That's a great band name, by the way, Adolescent Caligula. I realize that's an amazing punk band. That's punk as fuck.
That's the name of your next special for sure. Adolescent Caligula.
So then she dies, though. She dies a year later, as great-grandmothers often do. That's one of the things about great-grandmothers. Not long lifespans.
One of the great things, you guys.
So then he's sent to live with his grandma, Antonia. A year after that, Tiberius thinks, well, why not have all these teenagers whose entire fucking family I've murdered come live with me?
Fair.
I'll raise them on the Isle of Capri. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, I guess. No one really understands why Tiberius kept them alive. Historians even Roman historians even by our standards, that's fucking weird. And
something sexual. Everything has all something to do with sexual, I feel
like. It was man boys and it was weird.
So they grew up in this palace, but they were also kind of like prisoners. Like they were treated well, but they weren't allowed to leave. Mm-hmm. And according to historians, Caligula was an excellent natural actor, and recognizing danger, he hid all his resentment towards Tiberius. An observer said of Caligula, never was there a better servant or a worse master. So he was really good until he became emperor about like just being fucking cool to stay alive.
Yeah.
Caligula,
Smart.
Caligula claimed later he did have a plan to kill Tiberius with a dagger in order to avenge his mom and brother. However, having brought the weapon into Tiberius' bedroom, he did not kill the emperor, but instead threw the dagger down on the floor. Suetonius, which is one of the main historians, Roman historians of Caligula, claims that although he didn't kill Tiberius with that dagger, Caligula was already cruel and vicious by that point. He writes that when Tiberius brought Caligula to Capri, his purpose was to allow Caligula to live in order that, this is a weird quote, prove the ruin of himself and of all men, and that he was rearing a viper for the Roman people and a Phaethon for the world. Now, a Phaethon is a reference to a Roman god, by the way. It's the son of Helios, who borrowed a chariot of the sun, drove it so close to Earth that Zeus struck him down to save the world. And so basically, he wants to create some guy to burn down Rome. Because if you remember, even Tiberius was raised by somebody who had fucking harmed his father.
Right.
Yeah.
And had a lot of resentment to Rome.
Oh, wow.
And he's not interested in Rome. He's ruling from Capri. He's secluded himself. So there's like theories that he was just like, oh, I'm going to raise a fucking monster, unleash it upon this fucking city and fuck all you guys.
Wow.
Weird
that
shit.
is the most vicious thing ever.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
He's cultivating a monster.
Oh, my God.
Is what some people think.
Yeah.
Well, Tiberius, again, not happy about being emperor. He had an overbearing mom, Livia, who had a huge lust for power, pushed him towards the throne, hated her for it, didn't even go to her funeral when she died later. And again, he hid away at Capri, the Isle of Capri, 250 kilometers from Rome, only accessible by boat. He viewed the Senate as, quote, men fit to be slaves, passed his responsibilities as emperor to the head of the Praetorian Guard, this guy Sejanus, a man who came to think of himself as a true emperor until he got a little, too fucking big for his britches. And then Tiberius had him killed.
Let me guess what happened to him.
Yeah,
he retired to Florida, just kind of relaxed for a while. He started a little like a scuba rental place on the beach. Just lived out his days. That's nice. Saw his grandkids twice a year.
Tiberius was like, you can do my job. That's cool. But don't think you're me. Or you're fucking dead.
Did anybody ever interview Donald Trump's dad and ask him what he feels about America? I'm kind of curious about that right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. So he's very hands off. After the execution of Sejanus,
you can put your hat back on, Dan. It's all right. He didn't know.
That is hilarious.
We won't judge you. It's okay.
So after the execution of this guy, he's even more hands off, and basically he wants to be emperor so he can have all the wealth from it. He just wants to hang around on Capri and enjoy his life. And then have somebody else do all the work. Mm-hmm. Okay, so despite like the overwhelmingly negative characterization left by Roman historians, Tiberius actually did leave the Imperial Treasury with nearly 3 billion sesterces upon his death. About 5 billion in today's dollars, and because rather than kind of embark on costly campaigns of conquest, he just chose to strengthen the existing empire by building additional bases, using diplomacy as well as military threats, generally refraining from getting into petty squabbles between other competing frontier tyrants, and just fucking checking himself out completely.
Shopping
so just
at
hiding
Walmart,
out,
essentially.
Yeah, he's hiding out on the Isle of Capri, just being like, nah, let's keep things the same.
He's clipping coupons. He's like, hey guys, let's get this under control.
But let's talk about Caligula. Rumors of what happened when he went, because this is some weird shit. When he was growing up with Tiberius, the guy who basically murdered most of his family, and there's that whole question of did he groom Caligula to be a sadist? Well, apparently the death of Germanicus did bring a change to Tiberius's personality. According to Cassius Dio, he became increasingly cruel towards those who were suspected of plotting against him. Slaves were tortured to make them testify against their masters, etc. Tiberius would often pretend to pity people he had punished while he maintained a grudge against those he had pardoned. Suetonius said, about his demeanor, Tiberius did so many other wicked deeds under the pretext of reforming public morals, but in reality, it was to gratify his lust for seeing people suffer. So there was a lot of rumors about him being sadistic. And I watched this documentary on Amazon called Caligula, Paranoia and Brutality in Ancient Rome. And there's some weird claims in there. One is that Tiberius had people he wanted to get rid of come visit him on the Isle of Capri, and he lived on this palace on the top, kind of above this cliff. And then he would just have his guards throw them off the fucking cliff. Then be like, problem solved.
So it was basically he did like a Vlad the Impaler, where he'd be like, no, come over to my house, big feast, and then we're going to put your heads on spikes.
Right.
That's what he did.
I'm going to fucking throw you off the cliff.
Ballsy.
And this is the weirdest thing.
Make you really think twice about what you bring over as a thing.
Absolutely.
Like, what should we bring? No, we got to bring something good, really, seriously. That's a long fall.
Absolutely. Now this is one of the weirdest things I've just ever read, period, about anything in my entire life. Tiberius was allegedly a pedophile towards young slave boys.
Oh my God!
Which that was very common in Rome and not even frowned upon. That part wasn't really frowned upon. I'm going to get more to that later.
Adultery illegal, pedophile.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Pedastry, like it was a whole thing in Rome of like relationship between men and boys. But check that out. He had a troop allegedly of young boys called fishes, who had been, quote, trained to swim between his thighs and nibble his genitals as he swam.
Oh, no.
My God, like a Japanese pedicure?
Yes, but with boys being the fish.
Like a
and
Roman
your
pedophile.
Your dick instead of the toes.
Is that where the prison term fish came from? Is that
I don't know. I don't
swim
hear that
between
connection.
My thighs and diddle my taint up?
Now,
I don't know what.
That is horrific, but I also can't tell you how funny it is to watch a 50-ish, grandmotherly-looking British Roman historian talk about that. This lady who looks like this sweet middle-aged lady talk about trying to swim beneath his thighs and nibble his genitals. So great. So great.
I want my grandmother to read that to me.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to make her do it.
And I'm like, how do you get here? But I think it's a combination of extreme wealth, power, boredom, hanging on this island, but like, it is so crazy to me that you get to the place not only where you want something that specific, you want young boys to nibble your genitals as you swim, but you have a quote troop of them trained. What is there a fucking trainer? He's like, all right, kids. You've been a little off on your genital nibbling lately. You guys, no, you don't do a breaststroke. That's gonna clip his thighs. You want your arms at your side, mouth open. You're gonna learn how to breathe. Light nibbling. We're not dick biters. We're fish. We're genital nibblers. Like, what is happening?
Not piranhas, fish.
Not piranhas. What
Come on,
the
kids.
fuck?
It's 4:00. Turn Dora off. It's time for class. Let's go.
He called them like betas or something. Yeah.
Oh my God! So then, finally, 37 A.D., at the age of 77, Emperor and swim coach Tiberius either dies of old age or is smothered with a pillow by Praetorian guard Naevius Suetonius Macor at the request and or help of Caligula. There's a lot of rumors that Caligula finally fucking choked this dude out.
Awesome.
Well, as soon as Tiberius is dead, Caligula gets the fuck off the island he'd been forced to live on, heads to Rome. He comes in hot. He accepts the powers of the Principate as conferred by the Senate, and people love this dude. He enters Rome March 28th, 37 AD, amid a crowd that is hailing him as our baby, our star, other nicknames. He's described as the first emperor who is admired by everyone in the world, quote, all the world from the rising to the setting sun. Loved by many, mostly for being the son of Germanicus. People fucking loved Germanicus.
Wow.
They didn't like how he died. He was this military hero that they thought whose life was snuffed out. They didn't like, Tiberius sneaking in there. And so they're like, this isn't Germanicus, but this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
We fucking love this guy. He has the pedigree related to Augustus and Caesar and all that shit, and they fucking love him.
Little boots.
Little boots, baby. Little baby boots. and they loved an emperor who didn't hide from them. He wasn't out on this island. He was back in Rome. Their emperor was back in town,
Because before that, the guy was gone the whole time. He's on
forever.
Capri, and so they're like,
Long
"What the
ways
fuck's
away.
the emperor?" Yeah, this would be
checked
like, this would be like, he's back at the White House.
Yep.
Good deal. We got, that makes sense.
So Suetonius, the main historical source for Caligula information we have, says over 160,000 animals were sacrificed during his initial 3 months of public reign, rejoicing his thing. That's what they did. They're like, we fucking love this guy. Go kill a chicken or whatever. You know. Philo, another historian, describes the first 7 months of Caligula's reign as completely blissful. The love Rome had for emperors doesn't even translate to modern politics. Like, they were seen as almost gods. I feel like it's the closest we can come up to understand this is the relationship between Tom Brady and Patriot fans. You know, it's like that's the most accurate close we can get. You know, the way a Patriots fan loves Tom Brady is comparable to the way an average Roman citizen loved their emperor.
Yeah, the way a fat guy named Sean who lives in Worcester likes likes Tom Brady is the same way they looked upon him as the embodiment of all they represent.
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Like, I'm just like Tom Brady.
Just like
look
Tom
at me.
Brady.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah,
I can throw a pass like that. Throw wicked passes.
Right. Get those fucking boxes out the dock, Sean.
I hurt my knee.
All right,
I hurt my knee in the 11th grade, or else I'd be the backup to Brady. I'm not saying I'm better than Brady, but I could back him up. Is all I'm saying. That's it.
Garoppolo better enjoy his job.
Right.
I'm gonna rehab this knee, and I'm gonna get back out there.
Yep. So people are happy. The Patriots have won the Super Bowl. Unemployment's down. No one's trying to sack Rome. They got plenty of money in the palatial accounts, thanks to Tiberius, having those things built up. The son of one of Rome's greatest military heroes is back in town. All of the male citizens' dicks grew anywhere from 1 to 2 inches in length. The women's breasts became fuller and higher and tighter. Life is good. And Caligula, he knows how to endear himself. He grants bonuses to the military, and especially the Praetorian Guard, which is the kind of like the Secret Service. They're the guys who guard like a special army assigned to the emperor. And so he gives them a lot of money. He gives money to more city troops, money to the army. He destroys Tiberius's unpopular treason papers. Everybody who he threw out, he's like, "You're fucking welcome. Come on back."
Wow.
Tiberius was not a big fan of the gladiatorial games. He puts those back on, really gets those going again, lavish spectacles. And that was a weird thing with Romans. They really didn't like that about Tiberius, It's like, dude, what's up with you not wanting to watch slaves be forced to kill each other? Why don't you want to chew on some fucking snacks while a dead-eyed gladiator, slave spears a fucking giraffe baby? What's wrong with you?
It's 2017. I'd pay to watch that now.
Right.
Yeah. I want where they flooded it and they had sea battles in the
naval
That's
battles.
amazing. I want this. I want to see that.
Absolutely. So all kinds of crazy stuff. He fixes some tax things, makes it better for the poor. A lot of things to make him popular. But the merry reign of Caligula, short-lived. He gets very ill in October of 37 AD, and rightly or wrongly assumes that he was poisoned. Mm-hmm. And things start to fucking sour. Because remember, his dad Germanicus was rumored to have been poisoned, and he becomes increasingly paranoid that there are people trying to take the throne from him, which is not a fucking entirely crazy thing. People are like, "Oh, is he mentally ill?" People were always trying to kill the emperor. Right. So there was some legitimacy to his paranoia, but he also takes it further than most, and he has his cousin, adopted son, Tiberius Gemellus, executed. An act that outraged Caligula's and Gemellus's mutual grandmother, of course. She then commits suicide, but early historian Suetonius again thinks Caligula poisoned her. Check this out. He has his fucking father-in-law, Marcus Junius Silanus, and his brother-in-law, Marcus Lepidus, executed. How does that sit with your wife at home?
Wow. That's amazing, though. There's a lot of people out there that are like, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. He knew what he was doing, this guy.
Yeah.
Also, too, I get that it's, paranoia is rampant and for a reason, but at the same time, you also live in a time with no refrigeration, no FDA, there's no health standards here.
Right. People get sick.
People get sick all the time. You're eating bacteria constantly. There's no way to keep this shit fresh.
Absolutely.
The other point is that no matter who you murder or poison, somehow or another they're related to you. So it doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's true. a lot of people are related to each other.
All of them are your brother-in-law.
That's true. Well, he does spare one male family member, his uncle Claudius's life, because because he's a dick. Essentially, Claudius was crippled. He was born partially deaf, or had an accident. He was partially deaf and had a limp. And he basically keeps him around to fucking pick on him and laugh at him. He would encourage dinner guests to throw shit at him when he fell asleep. He just fucking kept this guy alive to mock him.
Jester. Unintentional jester.
This is the guy who would become emperor later, because he was the only. So Claudius actually ends up becoming a good emperor later.
So there were two things that frat boys took from them: their clothing and then their behavior.
And their behavior. Fucking mock on the weak and disenfranchised.
Right. So the guy with the gimpy leg. Let's fuck with him.
Right. But still people love him. Still people love him, even after all those executions. Back then, a couple family executions, not a big deal. I mean, the people are used to executions and death in a way that we want to understand. Like, think about life was like back then. A lot of the men of Rome used to be or currently were soldiers. And nothing against soldiers of today, but shit was way fucking different back then. You weren't killing somebody from a sniper rifle or a plane, a bomb, or like a video game type console from miles away. It was face to face. You're feeling their blood fucking spurt on your face. Brutal death was a way of life in Rome.
And back then, people died at home.
Yeah.
So you saw people die all the time. It wasn't like now where you don't see anybody die. They
people
go to
trying to sack Rome. The fights on the streets. You're fighting outside of Rome. There was lots
brutality,
of death.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
just how it worked back
Swords.
then.
The most common way. I mean, it's so crazy. And even the people who didn't fight, think about the gladiatorial matches. Even like the common citizen, your fucking grandma is sitting there fucking munching on some lamb or some shit or whatever kind of, cracker, watching a giraffe, or not a giraffe, I said giraffe, that'd be fucking crazy if a giraffe beat somebody, but watching a lion just tear apart some slaves.
Right.
They were used to bloodshed. So, a couple executions are like, fucking whatever. The life's that's Rome. That's Rome.
Well, we like it now.
Yeah.
It's a horror movie, but they didn't have movies.
Yeah,
it's just
that's
their
true.
real life. They're like, I want to see people now. I want to see a head get cut off. They're like, I want to see a real fucking head get cut off. I don't need it to be special effects.
Right. And this guy, no matter what he does, he's still the son of Germanicus.
Yeah.
He's still related to Augustus and Julius Caesar. And he did still do nice things. He aided some people who lost property in fires. He abolished certain taxes. He gave out prizes at like public events. He would literally throw money around. He allowed new members into the equestrian and senatorial orders. Improved the harbors in Rhegium and Sicily, which allowed increased grain exports from Egypt, so it aided times of famine.
He's like a rapper. He's got boats and he's throwing money around. This guy's a gangster.
And they loved expanding the empire, and he did. He pushed further into Africa. Not him, but his generals laid the groundwork for conquering the British Isles, added several aqueducts, bringing more water into Rome. The Egyptian obelisk that's to this day in front of St. Peter's in Rome, he brought that over. So, he did do he actually had the imperial headquarters on Palatine Hill. Latin name Palladium gives us the word palace. He had this big palace built, he did a lot of stuff. And then he also took decadence to a new level. He was, he's only the third emperor. And he's the first one to really he had these lavish love boats built. There was this nearby lake. He had built these huge floating villas, these with marble columns and sculptures and jeweled bathhouses where he'd host drunken orgies. It was on the lake Nemi. It's 19 miles south of Rome.
I'm in.
Oh yeah,
I'm not judging him right now.
Right, so he's endearing himself. He's endearing himself to some of the senators and stuff.
Is he having young boys swim around his nutsack while this is going on at all?
I'm guessing so.
Never mind. I'm out now.
The genital nibbling will come up again later. Actually,
it's good to know.
I was in for a second.
It evolves to chewing. Actually,
oh my god,
it gets crazier. Yeah, we're gonna get to some scary stuff in a bit.
Jesus.
But again, when we're talking about these insane things, remember how insane life was for Rome in general. Like that Lake Nemi, for example, or Nemi, excuse me. There was a sanctuary of Diana. This is this crazy story I read. It was a decorated temple, one of their gods, Diana, in a grove of sacred trees. And this priest in charge of this temple was the so-called king of Nemi. And the current king of Nemi got his job only by killing the previous king of Nemi. That was the only way. No application to fill out. No, you're here for the priest position. Well, fucking kill that guy. That's how you get it. And actually there was one more step. If you wanted the job, you had to find Diana's sacred tree. You had to pull a branch off with your bare hands. And if you did that, it's fucking on. You get challenge accepted, and you get to fight the current king and either die or you become the king. And Caligula apparently participated in this ritual, just forcing one of his slaves to fight the priest in charge.
But so you find whose tree?
Diana's
tree. And is this common knowledge of where this is? Or is this just a broke version of King Arthur? Is that what this is?
No, you could it happened a fair amount, but I'm just using that. And it's one of many random stories.
Okay, I got you.
Where it's just to show that yes, he's crazy, but also the times are fucking crazy. He didn't invent that ritual. This is shit that's already going on.
Yeah.
So, but he did even take it further. Remember earlier I talked about emperors were seen as almost gods, like Augustus. After he dies, then he goes to join the other gods.
Right.
Well, Caligula's I want to take that further. He's fuck, wait until I'm dead. I'm God now. and he just presented himself as a living god, and he would just go into temples like the Temple of Jupiter, and where people are worshiping, equivalent to some kind of church, and he would hang out by the statue of Jupiter and be like, well, you can fucking worship me too.
Wow.
He would just hang out in church and kind of demand to be worshipped.
So he's like running North Korea, basically, is what he's doing. Because that's exactly what that
Kim
family
Jong-un.
is. They're thought of as gods. They're thought of as divinely sent there to rule them.
Absolute megalomania.
It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, he's going into that where he's God now. He will do what he wants, whatever the fuck he wants. But it is crazy. He would have the heads removed from various statues of gods and replaced with his visage, like a bust of his head. It's comparable to if, like, okay, let's say if Trump went into like some church, like Catholic church, like get fucking Jesus' head off.
Yeah.
And now it's a crucifixion, but it's Trump's head.
Right.
And I want Melania's head on the Virgin Mary. Right. Like that didn't sit well with the people of Rome. But
although I could see him taking all the Obama pictures and just putting his face on.
Sure. That's more normal.
Hide his hands.
Hide his hands. But again, they give him a pass. They're still giving him a pass because he's the son of Germanicus. He started doing weirder and weirder shit. There's this rumor, shows up a lot, laughed off by serious historians, but worth mentioning, where he wanted to have his favorite horse, appointed as consul, just to mock the position. It's going to be Caligula's horse is now the fucking consul of Rome.
Is that why he did it? So it wasn't just crazy.
They don't know.
Okay.
Some people think he was just joking, and it got convoluted through history. Like he was just like, "Oh, you guys fucking suck so bad. I'd rather have my horse do it."
Yeah,
and then that became the thing.
Yeah.
But we don't know. He might have actually been like, "No, I want my fucking horse to be a consul now."
Was he sitting there like, you know what? Sparky's got some good ideas. I'm not going to fight.
Right.
He's told me some things, and I agree with them. I'm not going to lie.
He did take the sex stuff very far.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, this is how Trigger eats that apple is going to be the decision. That's how it is.
He turned his new palace into a brothel. He would love to dress up in women's clothes. He loved sex with women and men. Supposedly, this was a thing that was in one of the documentaries. This term is so crazy. I watched this one thing where it said he, quote, wore out his male partners. I don't know what the fuck that means. Does that mean like he wore out their buttholes? or like, even more impressive, or even more impressive, he wore out their dicks on his butthole.
Right. Did he rock that thing to a stub?
To a stub. Did he whittle it?
Fucking power bottom.
Did
like
he have a butthole whittle?
Right there.
Yeah, power bottom.
Hardcore.
Yeah, hardcore.
Was he himself a fish and he nibbled it to a nub?
Yeah.
These are all answers. These are all questions I want answers to now.
Again, the nibbling stuff's coming up. Yes. Supposedly, again, he had sex with men, women, virgins, slaves, other aristocrats, married women, children, girls, boys. So he was a lot of things. Impotent wasn't one of them. He would have made a fucking hell of an endorsement for Viagra. I'll fuck all night. I'll fuck your sister, your mom, your fucking brother, her brother, your mother's brother, the paper boy.
Because they're all related to me too.
Right. Everything gets fucked. Every butthole gets wore out with Caligula's Viagra.
I'll show you this is not Little Boot. I'm going to show you.
Right, yeah.
You will not call me Little Boot.
God. Oh, my God. Yeah, now, again, there's no way to be certain about these depictions. And he starts, there was a rumor that he looked like, one thing I read, he looked like a goat. People thought he looked like a goat towards the end when he started getting a little unpopular. And he would get so pissed off about this comparison that goats were not allowed to be mentioned near him. And if you did mention a goat near him, executed.
Absolutely.
You were put to death. Now, there's no way to be, certain about these depictions. I mean, but again, I want to create some context. Rome was very sexually liberal. For example, this is one of the most disturbing things I read about this. It was considered natural and unremarkable for men to be sexually attracted to teenage youths of both sexes, and pederasty was condoned as long as the younger male partner was not a freeborn Roman. And pederasty, God damn it. Someone I'm sure will fucking, I'll get 15 emails. Pedastry, yeah. Pedastry is defined, thank you, is defined as sexual intercourse. I love that you know that. As sexual intercourse. Actually, it's pedastry. It's very common and accepted.
Very common.
Pedastry is defined as sexual intercourse between a man and a boy. So basically, in Rome, at this time, boy fucking not only is legal, not a big deal.
No.
As long as the boy is a slave.
Super accepted.
I read things where, like, there would be written accounts of, like, arguments between one was like this senator and his wife, and she offered him up like anal sex to keep him more faithful or whatever, and he's like, boys' buttholes are way better than yours. Like that was his like comeback at her. He's like, what? No, and you could do whatever,
Jesus
just like because slaves had no rights. You want to fuck a slave? Not a big deal.
How dare you assume that your butthole's as tight as an 8-year-old?
How dare you? But it was like homosexual, heterosexual, that kind of difference. There was not even terms for those in Latin. It just like they were completely sexually just open.
It's just
at
called
the time
sexual.
of Caligula.
What are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, right. But even by Roman standards, Caligula took it too far, and this is a common thing with him. Even by the standards of the day, he fucking took it too far. Like one way, he supposedly humiliated the aristocracy was to have lavish dinner parties. He'd have a bunch of senators and their wives and stuff come over. And then like he would just pick a wife, one of the senator's wives, be like, come here. He'd walk out of the room with her. And then so they could still hear him. He was in here, fuck the wife. Like at the dinner that the husband and wife are at.
Within earshot.
Within earshot. Come back in and then degrade how she was in bed. Be like, man, you fuck that all the time? That's gross.
Wow.
Like just to show them, I will do whatever the fuck I want to do. I'm God.
Oh my
You'll
God.
take it. You will take it. You have a problem with that? I'll fucking kill you.
I am living my life so wrong. I could be doing such amazing things.
He was allegedly fond of saying, one of his favorite sayings was apparently, quote, let them hate me so long as they fear me. Like that was just kind of his mantra. And there was also a bunch of rumors that he went to bed with his sisters. Most people think that was just kind of slander, but whatever. Of everything, though, I read about Caligula, the allegations of torture are the ones that disturb me the most. Apparently a fondness for torture. I'm going to list off the worst ones I came across and admit there's no way to verify any of this stuff happened, but some of it could have happened.
I'm sure it did. He's wearing out buttholes at that kind of rate.
He's terrifying. So
he's banging another senator's wife right around the corner and then coming back and telling him that her vagina smells. Like he's a terrible man.
We weren't there, but if 10% of this stuff was true, he's one of the worst people ever. You know? And so let's get into the worst stuff I read with some super scary stuff.
Super scary stuff.
Okay. Number one, I'm just going to get right to it. Jamie, I talked about the genital nibbling. Actually, you know what? I'm going to get into that with number two. We're going to build to that.
Okay.
First, let's go with some genital attacking. One source described a strange scene on one of his love boats where he had slaves of both genders tied to poles, and then he would just like all of a sudden, I guess like had them tied up in some room to these poles, and then he would run into the room and just, quote, attack their genitals like a wild animal.
Like with claws?
I guess that's all it said.
Sounds like a game.
Yeah, like a weird game he came up with. Hey guys, check this out.
Watch me try to rip that off of you. What's the game? That is the. How do you attack a genital?
I think again, it's just like doing whatever he wants to do. And then another one is supposedly he liked to chew on the testicles of victims. He would have a victim tied down, upside down, legs pulled apart, and then just kind of push his face down and bite and like chew on their fucking genitals, like chew on their balls and stuff.
Now you're dead. I'm gonna blow you.
So maybe old Uncle Daddy Tiberius, maybe he was one of those fish boys. Maybe is reenacting some nibbling, or who knows? Again, who knows about this? One of his favorite public events, the Circus Maximus, involved throwing criminals into big pits where they were devoured by starved wild animals. He particularly loved, I guess, when lions would eat people. And supposedly one time when they ran out of criminals, he's like, man, this is fun. Why should we end the fun here? He just had some people from the stands like, fucking throw them in with the lions. So some people moments before like, aha, get those lions. And then they're like, all right, you're next.
They got a hot dog in their hand. They're like, what? Let me finish my beer first.
So
I paid $13 for this beer.
And the Circus Maximus, by the way, is like an alternate venue to the Colosseum. It was a little bit before. The Colosseum wasn't completed in somewhere between 40 and 50 AD, so a little bit later. But this is where they had the gladiatorial events and all that kind of stuff before the Colosseum. He would use criminals to feed his animals. It wasn't just limited to public spectacle. When meat for feeding the wild beasts was kind of limited or maybe expensive, he's like, well, let's just go to the jail. And he would just get criminals and just use them to feed to the fucking animals.
How would he pick them out? Because I would think he'd say, like, well, let's grab the worst people. Anybody fucking kids?
Yeah.
Let's grab. Oh, no, wait. That's never mind. That's
like
okay.
That.
All right,
That's
that's fine.
okay.
Anybody like, what is the thing that would
is
get
anybody
him?
half as bad as me?
Anybody.
Anybody.
What the
Apparently,
fuck?
he also would have, he didn't like to hear their screams as they were being eaten all the time. Like, he didn't always like the noise. And he'd have their tongues removed first and then feed them.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, he's apparently the stuff you read about this guy.
Oh, Jesus. That's worse. People you feel bad about how much of a monster you are, so you're more of a monster? That's
right.
That's fucking terrifying.
I don't want to hear all those screams. Let's get their tongues out.
Yeah, he's just trying to read. He's like, you know what? I got to do this. And I got this it's very distracting, okay? I'm trying to come up with plans of how to torment slaves' genitals. I really need quiet right now.
I got to concentrate.
Keep it down.
One of Suetonius, again, the historian's many accusations of extreme cruelty Caligula committed was when a senator had the balls to label him an enemy of the public. And then Caligula encouraged a mob to literally tear the man apart. First they stabbed him with swords, kind of like cut and stuff like that, and then literally pulled his limbs off of his body and then demanded that they pile his remains into a fucking heap. They turned this guy from a dude saying, I don't like what you're doing to Rome, into a pile of fucking limbs and guts and left in the street.
They Gaddafi'd him.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Sometimes he liked to prolong torture, and he'd give numerous small wounds inflicted by slight and frequently repeated strokes, telling the torturer, quote, strike so that he may feel himself die.
Oh my God.
He burned people alive. One time, some writer tried to slip in a joke into some play about him, like some double meaning thing, like a sneaky joke.
Satire.
Well, some satire. He didn't care for it. He has a little crowd gather in the amphitheater, and they fucking burned that guy alive.
Well, in his defense, it was probably a hacky joke.
Right.
Pussy means two things, right? A cat and we
Okay, get in the fucking pit. Get in the barbecue pit.
Have you ever fought a fucking lion? You're about to tonight.
Get in Little Boots barbecue pit.
This might not be a bad idea for comedy clubs. I gotta be honest with you. I think we've come on to something here.
You didn't want
mic night.
You didn't want to steal from Caligula. One time, apparently, a slave stole some silver from him. He had the guy's. Check this is so fucking horrific.
These are my favorite moments, by the way, in your podcast when you pause to brace people for the atrocity you're about to say.
Yeah, even if you had the kids listen to this point, again, maybe
if your kids were okay with the fishing,
maybe this one. He had the dude's hands cut off, and then connected together with like a rope. And then draped over his own neck, and then had him paraded around a party, just like to all the guests, that could see there, like this dude just fucking wearing a necklace, essentially, of his own fucking hands that were just hanging on his chest.
He's walking, like they're forcing him to walk around, or they're like carrying him.
No, walking.
So he's walking around just like spouting blood out of these stumps.
Wearing his hand necklace.
Jesus God.
Yeah, I mean, they may have cauterized, they didn't say, to keep him alive longer.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these things are so cartoonish, you don't know. But again, these are all like historians about 100 years later saying like, well, this is what we heard. This is what we fucking heard he did.
The original Vietnam ear necklace.
This is the fucking worst. This is the worst fucking one. Everything I've said so far, this is so... I don't even know how you get more horrific than this. Okay, this is one time some Roman citizen was dumb enough to insult him in public to his face. So what he does is he has the guards tie the man down, he beats him with chains, and then before he kills him, he sends other guards to find the man's family. Get the whole fucking family out here. One by one, from oldest to youngest, in front of this fucking guy, he executes his children. The crowd's disgusted. Apparently, they start to revolt. Caligula's like, no, you're going to fucking watch this. And apparently, there was some weird, there was one last remaining kid, a 12-year-old girl, and there was, according to Roman law, Caligula couldn't execute a virgin, apparently. So he's like, I'll fix that.
Oh, no.
Orders one of his guards to rape the girl in front of the mob.
Oh, my God.
A girl who just watched her family be executed, then kills her.
Wow.
Then the fucking and then kills the fucking dad. The whole family's gone.
What was the insult?
He was like, you look nice, but he said it in a weird way.
Yeah.
He's like, you look nice, Caligula. And Caligula's like, that didn't feel sincere.
Love those sandals, buddy. Love them. He's like, I don't think he was sincere about that.
The guy was like, this Gouda tastes great. Did you say fucking Gouda? You know how I feel about goats. And then, but I don't know. We don't know.
Holy shit.
Let's his tales of sadism are again, they're fucking legendary, and that is plenty of super scary stuff.
That's a hell of a tale.
Super scary stuff. Super scary stuff. Super scary stuff.
So eventually, pissing off a lot of important people gets Caligula killed. Even worse than fucking senators' wives, though, and telling them about it, he was about to spend all of Rome's money. He was blowing through the money. All the money Tiberius had saved. Caligula was, he was thrown on lavish love boats, bribing soldiers to love him, literally throwing money around to make the citizens like him. He was draining the Roman treasury faster than he could replenish it through taxes and extortion. And so before he ruined Rome, a conspiracy is formed between the Praetorian Guard, the Senate, and the Equestrian Order. Late January 41 AD, Caligula is stabbed to death along with his wife and daughter by officers of the Praetorian Guard led by Cassius Chaerea. And thus Cassius Dio notes Caligula, quote, learned by actual experience that he was not a god.
That's a great quote.
That's a great quote. And then he's the first Roman emperor to be assassinated. So then after his death, the Senate attempts to use his death as an opportunity to go back to the Republic. But Chaerea tries to persuade the military to support the Senate. But then soon after Caligula's death, his uncle and last surviving male member of Caligula's family, the dude he used to mock, the crippled guy Claudius, a man spared by Tiberius's killing just to mock him, he is named emperor by the Praetorian Guard. And because the military, and check this out, it always comes down to like self-interest. The Praetorian Guard, who have become more powerful even under Caligula, which is a guard that only exists to serve the emperor, Well, if there's no more emperor, there's no more Praetorian guards. So they're like, fuck that. Like, if this goes back to Republic, we all lose our jobs.
Job security is a
Job
motherfucker
security.
anywhere in any
Economy.
time and
Self-preservation.
place, and
Yep. So that's what keeps the Senate going. That's
And
what
that just goes to show that the guy that you make fun of and the guy that you taunt and the guy that you fuck with will eventually be your boss. So be careful whose forehead you draw dicks on when he passes out.
That's right. That's right. But what's crazy to me, though, is apparently after all this debauchery, he's still loved by the public and they grieve his loss. To appease the public, all of those involved in the actual killing of him and his family are found, tried and executed. And then, Claudius takes the reign. And I guess by all accounts, Claudius did a good job. He conquered Britain for Rome. He built a few more aqueducts. He hosted some gladiator battles, built tons of roads. And he introduced walruses to Italy, which remain there to this day. Milan is actually Latin for city of walruses. So I didn't know that.
How about that?
Mostly because it's not true. That part's not true. So the walrus part's not true.
You son of a bitch.
But everything else.
Walruses. I was 100%
The
blown
city
away right
of
there.
walruses.
oh my god.
But that is Caligula.
My grandmother's from Italy. I was about to literally call her after the show. Is this fucking true? Does that mean city
Is
of
Milan
walruses?
the city of walruses?
She's like, "Mo, what are you talking about?" She just smacked me next time.
Hilarious.
So that's Caligula. That's Rome. And again, life was a little different back then. And I think a lot of his exploits he did a lot of horrible shit, obviously, but they're more shocking to us now because of the context we live in. Like if he did, if just anyone was fucking by a high-ranking politician was murdered in the street, that's crazy. If anyone's tortured on video by a politician, that's crazy. But again, back then, this shit did happen all the fucking time.
Constantly.
But what's crazy to me, though, is about Caligula is even by the debaucherous standards of the day, he stood out for being like significantly debaucherous. For centuries, his name has been synonymous with overindulgence and evil abuse of power. And why did he do it? Why did he take it that far? Some people think mental illness, maybe. To me, though, maybe he was just a kid who had most of his family at a young age murdered or exiled by the man who would then raise him and supposedly groom him to indulge in his worst fucking, interests. And then this young man who has these dark desires indulged and who's experienced so much tragic violence is given unlimited power over the most powerful city and nation of the world, the same nation that tore his childhood apart. Maybe he wanted him to pay. Maybe he's a fucking sociopath. Maybe he was created. We'll never know. But what we can do, let's take one last look at the crazy life of Little Boots, Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus Caligula, with some top 5 takeaways.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
All right, number 1, Caligula may have been many things, but impotent was not one of them. No one knew the ins and outs of Rome in the 4th century AD better than Baby Boots' dick.
That may be the best takeaway ever.
Number 2, a lot of emperors were revered as gods after they died, but Caligula took it a step further, decided he was a living god. And now we know that if you want to kill God, you just fucking stab it. Number 3, Caligula was really into openly sleeping with powerful men's wives, which, as it turns out, is a great way to end up getting stabbed yourself. Number 4, a lot of references to genital chewing floating around Caligula, which is, even if it's not true, very strange thing to be associated with. I've researched a lot of weird shit over the past 6 months on Timesuck. Only Caligula has led me not once but twice to genital chewing. Number 5, Caligula, the man who'd grow up to burn people alive and either fuck or fuck up just about everything in sight, was once a cute little baby, dressed up to look just like his daddy, right down to his little matching baby boots. What a good reminder for all of us to never, ever trust a fucking baby. All right, parents, sleep with one eye open. That little tote of joy you're raising might just be Caligula.
Oh shit.
Timesuck. Top 5 takeaways.
All right, thanks for listening to another fun episode, everybody. Cleveland coming up this weekend. I'll be at Hilarity. San Fran coming up next month. Many more cities. Go to timesuckpodcast.com. Click on stand-up tour and more. Also go to timesuckpodcast.com to see pics and links corresponding to today's show. That's also the place to head to the shop to get that first edition Timesuck t-shirt made out of 600% pure muskrat labia. Big thanks.
You are getting so creative with these. That's maybe the best one. Muskrat labia.
Now, and
That's your new comedy title. That's your specials album now. Muskrat.
And I want to talk about our guests now. Big thanks to Crime and Sports and Small Town Murder gang, James Petrogallo, Jimmy Wisman. Let the Timesuckers know. I listen to your guys. So I love the fucking quality you put into the research, how fun it is. But, let the Timesuck people know just exactly why they need to fucking get these podcasts.
Okay, first of all, Jimmy, you can help me on this. It's crime in sports. It's you take a criminal athlete, you take someone who we've propped up as this wonderful person who just completely throws it away, and we just make fun of him the entire time.
Trevor Berbick, right?
Trevor Berbick.
Listen, I'm going to be on the Trevor Berbick. When does that come out?
That Tuesday. This is
so tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
it will come out tomorrow. This is what I mean. We just take, if you want to see an asshole who has everything and doesn't have to do anything wrong, but chooses to anyway, if you want to see him be made fun of for an hour 50.
So good. The rise and fall is what I love.
Oh, that's what
Every
it is.
episode of Crime in Sports is like, things are going great, and you're like, when's it going to fucking go terrible?
Yeah. Oh, he had a kid, he named him Junior. Shit, it's going to happen now, soon. Yes. There's patterns, there's everything. You can really see how an asshole is formed and how ego and hubris.
And it's every Tuesday, right?
Every single
What time
Tuesday.
on Tuesday?
It comes out at 12:05 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday morning. And also, too, Small Town Murder.
Yeah, exactly.
We take a little small town, we take it apart, tell you about the demographics, what goes on there, history, kind of how the vibe of the town is, and then talk about a horrific murder that happened there, or maybe multiple murders that happened from the same person, and we break that all down and just take that case apart and how it affected the whole town and everything like that.
Where would you want someone to start? Like what's the craziest, let's say, crime in sports, craziest guy so far that you think? Is there one that stands out? I know all of them are crazy, but is there one that stands out?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for just crazy, I would go with Mr. Dotsik, Vyacheslav Dotsik. He's a Russian UFC fighter who is also a Nazi.
Oh my God, I love that episode.
He's crazy. And then if you want the scummiest or the worst.
Sorry, on that one, I just remember the scene where I was laughing to myself at the gym was I think it was in Scandinavia. It was some neo-Nazi compound where these dudes are fighting naked.
Yes, fighting naked.
They're training naked.
In the front yard, in the snow.
Outside of a tattoo parlor.
That is the craziest scene.
Think tattoo parlors are scary here. Check them out there. Much scarier with Nazi flags hanging everywhere.
And that guy was so fucking crazy that he was deemed too crazy for even Russian prisons.
Prison. Yeah, they were like, oh, we can't have him around the other prisoners. He's going to just freak everybody out. Also, too,
what was his nickname? I'm sorry, Red Tarzan.
Red Tarzan. Yeah, Red Tarzan. He was crazy. They'd interview him and they'd say, so what do you think about your fight? And he'd just go, bah, and run away. You're like, oh, all right, that's interesting.
Yep.
And also, too, we had a guy, Eddie Johnson, a former basketball player who was arrested over 100 times and then finally for raping an 8-year-old girl.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, he was like Caligula of basketball. So that was a fun one, too, obviously.
The best part about Eddie is that then after his arrest and public broadcast of it on the news, a douchebag named Skip Bayless happened to pick up the news, and then he went ahead and flashed a picture of a different Eddie Johnson that still played in the NBA, ruining his career.
Oh my God!
If you Google search Eddie Johnson rape, you will get the wrong Eddie Johnson first. You'll get him first.
You'd think that guy would have a lawyer be like, "Can you fucking please,
Jesus Christ,
fix the search engine?"
I believe that he did do some sort of lawyering to get something done, because
it's out there, though.
Yeah, it's out there. It's definitely out there.
If another Dan Cummins fucking raped a kid, and then you search for that one, and it's like, "Hey guys, come to my comedy show."
Yeah. Don't poke the bear. So then if you don't like those, you may enjoy a man named Bruno De Souza, who was just recently back in the news because what he did was knocked up a Brazilian porn star. I remember you talking about that too. Did not want to pay child support after the child was born. So he went ahead and chopped up the mother after torturing her and then feeding her meat area of the body to his dogs, and then buried the bones and the hard stuff in concrete. So then he went to prison for that. And then after 7 years, he is now out and playing soccer again.
Jesus.
Signed just recently to a new team. So that's what I mean. It's craziness and it just take somebody down, and 100% true and research to the point of lack of sleep. So
well, thank you guys so much for being on here, man. Where should people go to find their podcast or more about you guys?
You can find them on iTunes or Audio Boom or iHeartRadio and Stitcher. You can find them pretty much everywhere that podcasts are found. You can learn more about us on crimeandsports.com once that comes up. So
it'll probably be up while you're hearing this, actually.
Okay, great. That's great.
And you can find me at Wisman Sucks, WHISMAN Sucks on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And James...
I'm at Jimmy P is funny, and follow us, follow the shows, and goddamn, we love doing this show, Dan.
Awesome, this was so much fun. What a fun special edition of Timesuck. Go get Crime and Sports and Small Town Murder. And the last thing I say, please take a second. It'll take less than a minute to fill out that survey at podsurvey.com/Timesuck. That's PODSURVEY.com. Timesuck, one word. Can't stress enough how important this one survey is to the future of the podcast. It can live for years and years with sponsor. It's on life support without them at some point. And again, that is podsurvey.com/timesuck. And thank you in advance for being the fucking best, you guys. All the emails are so great. And I hope one of you sincerely wins that Amazon $100 gift card for filling out that podsurvey.com/timesuck little fucking survey.
If you love Timesuck like I love Timesuck, please do it. I'll be doing it with you. So I'm in the running against you to get this gift card. God damn it.
I'm gonna do it myself. It's anonymous. They don't know that I'm the host. I'm gonna fill a survey out for my own fucking show.
Real quick, let's go back to one of your episodes that you just covered. A man named Blackbeard. Who was the dickhead of the sea. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. The man that killed him is a man named Maynard. And my family, going through this episode with all these bloodlines, my great whatever grandfather is Mr. Maynard, who circumcised the dickhead of the sea by taking his head off his body, hanging it on the front of his boat, and then sailing into Charleston Harbor with it. That's my family. And he is as ruthless as Caligula under the pretense of the law.
I hope the 100 pounds that Governor Spotswell gave him for that fucking Blackbeard head has trickled down to you in some way.
One day, maybe. We'll see.
One day. Oh, man, that was great. I remember getting that text. That was so great. You guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, podsurvey.com/timesuck. Have a great week. Keep on sucking.